Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshama. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Okay. We're starting from chapter 29, which is the Ras dance introduction. So Srila Prabhupada actually has a lengthy introduction to the Ras dance, and with good reason as well, because these central chapters of the Krishna book, they're not really for indulging in. So Prabhupada gives us some strong warnings ahead before we start reading these like more esoteric pastimes, more intimate pastimes of Krishna with his devotees. And in many places, Prabhupada has warned devotees, we shouldn't jump into these chapters. So we have to approach them very carefully. Of course, this group, we have been going consistently through Bhagavad Gita and now through Krishna book. So we're only kind of following the flow, really, as has been given to us by Prabhupada. Having said that, I'm not such an exalted speaker to be speaking about these topics, such as Ras dance. So we'll try and strictly stick to what Prabhupada's teaching us here and discuss that only, rather than trying to, go into so many different categories of discussion around this and subcategories or anything like that. It's actually a very auspicious and nice day to be discussing this particular chapter, because in the Vaishnava calendar today, or in our Gaudiya Vaishnava calendar rather, today is the appearance day of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Does anyone know the role of Sri Gadadhar Pandit, the identity of Gadadhar Pandit in the Krishna Leela?
She's Radharani.
Yes, so Radharani, she comes in Gauranga Mahaprabhu's Leela as Gadadhar. So as we chant Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda. So Gadadhar, that is actually Radharani who's come to be with Krishna. She's come to be with Krishna, let's say, in a male form, because most of the Gaura Leela, Krishna and his associates have male forms, and most of the Vrindavan Leela, Krishna has female associates. So we'll be reading about those today. Okay, so just a small way of introduction. So let's begin, Jai Prakash Prabhu, by reading paragraph by paragraph.
Okay, chapter 59, the Rasa dance, introduction. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the Rasa dance took place on the full moon night of the Sarat season. From the statements of previous chapters, it appears that the festival Govardhan Puja was performed just after the dark moon night of the month of Kartik. Thereafter, the ceremony of Pratra Dvitya was performed. Then the wrath of Indra was exhibited in the shape of torrents of rain and hailstones. And Lord Krishna held up Govardhan hill for 7 days, until the 9th day of the moon. Thereafter, on the 10th day, the inhabitants of Vrindavan were talking amongst themselves about the wonderful activities of Krishna. And the next day, Ekadashi was observed by Nanda Maharaj. On the next day, Dwadashi, Nanda Maharaj went to take a bath in the Ganges and was arrested by one of the men of Varuna. Then he was released by Lord Krishna. Then Nanda Maharaj, along with the cowherd men, was shown the spiritual sky.
If you could just read the next paragraph as well, which is short.
In this way, the full moon of the Sarat season came to the end. The full moon night of Aswini is called Sarat Purnima. It appears that the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna had to wait another year for such a moon before enjoying the rasa dance with the gopis. At the age of 7 years, he lifted Govardhan hill thereafter. Therefore, the rasa dance took place during his 8th year.
Right. So Prabhupada is nicely giving a summary of the previous chapters leading to the Ras dance. Yeah. And starting from this is basically day by day in the month of Kartik. Yeah. So we know Kartik is the holiest of all the months in our Vaishnav calendar. And practically every day there's some occasion on the month of Kartik. So this is elaborately explained here. Yeah. Starting from the dark moon night, which is when the puja itself was performed. Yeah. So just prior to that puja, the Govardhan puja that is, Krishna had the pastime with the wives of the Brahmins. So that was actually also in the Kartik month. Yeah. And then in the middle of this month, which is the dark moon night. Yeah. Because there's 2 moons in every month. There's a dark moon and there's a light moon. So in the middle of the month, you have the dark moon, which is when Govardhan Puja is. It's right in the middle of the Kartik month. Then just after that, you have the Dvitiya. So sometimes this is called Bhai Beej. Is anyone familiar with that? Bhai Beej? Yeah. Do you know what that festival is celebrating? Can you say?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Smita Mataji. Welcome.
Sorry for being late. There's 2 ways actually. There's 2 lots of well, not 2 lots of Bhai Beej, but 2 main, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. One is because Krishna had too much to eat on that, because Bhai Beej comes straight after the New Year. So because he had so much to eat, he goes to his sister's house and he asks for khichdi because he just wants something light to eat.
Mm.
And then the other thing is that if you sing, well, I don't know if it's material or if you sing Yamnastak on the day of Bhai Beej,
Yeah.
then the brother doesn't go to hell.
Mm. And do you know why that is?
I don't know why. Yamnastak is obviously the most pure river. Yamunaji is pure. So when you do bathe, actually some people, you don't sing just Yamnastak. Some people do in India on that day. The brother and the sister both together go to Yamnastak and have a dip in that Yamuna river. So I guess it's to take out all the sins, maybe.
Good attempt. Yeah, it is very much to do with Yamunaji. Does anyone know why Yamuna is glorified?
Yeah, I think what really happened was Yamraja is his sister is Yamunaji and Yamuna Rani, and then Yamraja was invited to have a meal at Yamunaji, and then she made a nice meal and everything. And after the meal, the brother was really, really happy with it, and he said that ask for a benediction. So she asked for a benediction that on this day, if anybody comes and bathes in Yamuna, they should not see your face, as in they should not go to hell and see Yamraja. So this is benediction. I think that's that I heard that somewhere.
Yeah.
It was the benediction that Yamraja gave, that if anybody bathes in Yamunaji on Bai Beach, they will not go to see, go to hell or see Yamraja.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. So Bai Beach is a special occasion, as it's here called Brata Tritya, which is the same thing. Brata means brother, and Tritya is the day of the calendar day, the Tritya day. So yeah, okay. And then the next day is the 9th day here. So Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill for 7 days, and then it was the 9th day when he put the hill down. And then on the 10th day is the chapter we just read about Nanda Maharaj. So he was supposed to be breaking his fast, but he bathed a little bit before the fast break time. So he bathed on the Ekadashi day. Maybe it was by a few moments, and then that whole pastime happened with Varun Dev. So that was Dwadashi, when the cowherd men, they were discussing all the pastimes of Krishna. Yeah. And of course, Indra, he came to ask for forgiveness after that as well. So this was at Krishna's age of 7. Yeah. But then after a whole year, in the same month of Kartik, so in the Kartik month the following year, is when this pastime happens, the Ras dance, which we're going to read about. So Prabhupada is giving a perspective that it's not immediately after picking the Govardhan hill up. This is actually a whole year after. Also, it's a whole year after Krishna had stolen the clothes of the gopis. Yeah, so you remember that chapter? So that is very much connected with this chapter, because the gopis, they prayed to Krishna for what? Or rather, they prayed to Katyayani for what?
Krishna becomes the husband.
That's right, yeah. So then Krishna is fulfilling that desire here. Okay. So let's continue reading. If Jai Prakash Prabhu could carry on for us.
From the Vedic literature, it appears that when a theatrical actor dances amongst many dancing girls, the group dance is called a rasa dance. When Krishna saw the full moon night of the Sarad season, decorated with various seasonal flowers, especially the Malika flowers, which were very fragrant, he remembered the gopis' prayers to the goddess Katyayani, wherein they prayed for Krishna to be their husband. He thought that the full moon night of the Sarad season was just suitable for a nice dance. So their desire to have Krishna as their husband would then be fulfilled.
Yes, so they had performed the Katyayani Vrata in the month of, I think it's month of Marg. It's like in December normally, that day is there. And the Katyayani Vrata is where ladies will do a vrata to bathe in the river and perform certain austerities and pujas to have a good husband. They pray to the goddess Durga Devi. So this is one form of Durga Devi, or Parvati, let's say, because they said that if you pray to Shiva for a good wife, or you can pray to Parvati for a good husband, then your desire is fulfilled. Yeah. So ordinarily that would be a material desire. Yeah. So do the gopis have material desires? It's a question that sometimes comes up. So from our previous discussions, do you remember about this? Do the gopis have material desires? I hear some of us whispering.
No, they don't have material desires.
That's right, yeah. They don't have material desires. Can you think of why that is? Do you know or remember from when we discussed?
Because they're the purest devotees of Krishna, and they just want to serve him in any way they can. So it's completely spiritual, their desire.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So by any means necessary, yeah, is their motivation, any means necessary. So if they have to do Katyayani Vrata, they'll do that to worship Krishna. That's kind of their mood. So we can say they don't have a material desire because their intention is Krishna. They want to achieve Krishna in the end, and they're starting with whatever they need to do that, to get to a spiritual end. To increase their relationship with Krishna, they'll do whatever they want. So it seems like a material activity, but the end is spiritual actually. So it's not a material activity at all. Whereas if the end is a material gain, materialistic gain, not connected to Krishna, then even if you're doing a spiritual activity, then it's not actually spiritual. You could be doing a yajna, like the Vedic Brahmins. You could be, performing pujas like Indra to have his position. And so even if the prayer is to Krishna, it may be seemingly spiritual, but because the end goal is not spiritual, therefore it's not, the goal is not spiritual, therefore the means is not spiritual. Yeah. Whereas if the goal is spiritual and the means is seemingly not spiritual, actually it is spiritual. So we discussed that in more detail in previous weeks. So we'll continue from here. So Jake Prakash.
The words used in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam are Bhagwan Api. This means that although Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus there's no desire that needs to be fulfilled, because he is always full with 6 opulences. He still wanted to enjoy the company of the gopis in the rasa dance. Bhagwan Api signifies that the dance is not like the ordinary dancing of young boys and young girls. Specific words used in Srimad Bhagavatam and Yogmayan Upasrita, which means that this, is that right?
Yeah, Yogamaya Upasritaha.
Okay. Which means that this dancing with the gopis is on the platform of Yogamaya, not Mahamaya. The dancing of young boys and girls with the material world in the kingdom of Mahamaya, or the external energy. The rasa dance of Krishna with the gopis is on the platform of Yogamaya. The difference between the platforms of Yogamaya and Mahamaya is compared in the Chaitanya Charitamrita to the difference between gold and iron. From the viewpoint of metallurgy, gold and iron are both metals, but the quality is completely different. Similarly, although the rasa dance and Lord Krishna's association with the gopis appear like ordinary mixing of young boys and girls, the quality is completely different. The difference is appreciated by great Vaishnavas because they can understand the difference between love of Krishna and lust.
Right, so Prabhupada is making a very serious point here. That, a couple of serious points actually. So the first one that Prabhupada mentions is that the words used, Bhagavan Api, is significant. Because that indicates that Krishna is Bhagavan. Yeah. And what does the word Bhagavan mean? Of course it means God, but it means something more specific. What does Bhagavan mean? Does anyone know? What if we just take half of the word Bhaga? If someone has Bhaga, they have, what do they have?
Is it the word? Does it mean the word?
The world?
Yeah.
Not exactly, no.
Oh,
It has,
is it as in Bhagya?
yeah, Bhagya is another word. Yeah, that's a similar word with a similar meaning. Actually.
Fortune or your luck,
Yeah.
or your destiny.
Yeah, that's a different word, but it has a similar meaning. So Prabhupada has put it in brackets here, what Bhagavan means. So after saying Bhagavan Api, then he explains Bhagavan means one who is full of 6 opulences. Yeah. So if someone ever asks, what is, who is Bhagavan? Yeah. Then you can say Bhagavan is someone who is full of 6 opulences. And so what are the 6 opulences we hear about time and again in the Vedic literatures? Does anyone know a few?
Yeah, so you can hear about Krishna's beauty,
Beauty,
his knowledge,
knowledge, yeah,
strength,
strength, wealth, yeah,
fame,
fame,
and
that's 5.
renunciation.
6, yeah, renunciation, right. So Krishna is full in all opulences. So all opulences stem from these 6. Yeah? So to say that Krishna is Bhagavan in this connection is very significant, because it means that Krishna doesn't need anything. Krishna is not lacking anything, So his desires are not based on, they're not based on like a need, or they're not based on a sort of a longing, or he doesn't have an unfulfilled desire. Yeah, they're simply based on his enjoyment and his exchanges with his devotees. So this is the first point that Prabhupada is making, that so even though he's Bhagavan, still he wanted to enjoy the company of the gopis. Yeah. So just because someone has some opulence, it doesn't mean that they become desireless. That's the philosophy of the Mayavadis, who believe that, when you become spiritual, then all your desires go away. You become like nothing, So our philosophy is different, that you can be perfect and complete, and still your desires can be based on a spiritual platform. And so that brings us to this next statement Prabhupada makes about Yogmaya. So Prabhupada distinguishes between Yogmaya and Mahamaya. So what is the difference there between the material and the spiritual energies? Or as Prabhupada puts it, the external energy, which is the energy of this world, and the energy of the spiritual world. What are the difference there? Prabhupada says the quality is completely different.
He's making a difference between Yogmaya and Mahamaya, is the comparing with gold and iron. So it's like gold is like pure, so many good things about gold, and with the iron, I think I've heard like kind of a saying that doesn't matter, no matter how much you rub the iron, but it can never be the gold or shiny or pure. But I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah, that's it. So they're both metals, first of all. Just as these two are different energies of Krishna, they're both Krishna's energy. Yeah. So it's not that something doesn't belong to Krishna. The Mahamaya doesn't belong to Krishna, and Yogmaya does. So actually, they both belong to Krishna in the same way that gold and iron are both metals. Yeah, they're both metals, but they're very different kind of metals. Yeah, both different ends of the scale. Yeah. Whereas gold is, as Mataji put it nicely, is the purest metal. It's the greatest quality. As iron is, of course, now it's said that we live in the Iron Age, the Kali Yuga. So we live in the most degraded age, or the most materialistic age. So in this age, people appreciate even iron. But Prabhupada makes different statements that iron is not very worthy material. So they're very, very different in quality. That's the point. So love and lust are very different in quality. Love and lust, the same way that gold and iron are different in quality. Yeah. So they may seem like the same thing. The activities may externally look the same, but real love is actually selfless. When we say love, it doesn't mean in a romantic way, but love means actually in a spiritual way. That is completely selfless. That there's nothing for oneself. There's no benefit for oneself, or rather, the motivation isn't for oneself in performing activities out of love. Whereas in lust, it's completely to fulfill one's own needs. The activities are completely to fulfill one's own needs. Lust. Yeah. So this is a difference. And actually, they're so different. They're not like kind of similar, but they're so different. They're different ends of a spectrum. Love and lust are different ends of a spectrum. Okay, so we can continue from here. Of course, if anyone has questions, comments, then please add. Shall we have the next reader now? Jigna Mataji?
Yes.
Thanks.
On the Mahamaya platform, dances take place on the basis of sense gratification. But when Krishna called the gopis by sounding his flute, they very hurriedly rushed toward the spot of the rasa dance with the transcendental desire to satisfy Krishna. The author of the Chaitanya Charitamrit, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, has explained that lust means sense gratification and love also means sense gratification, but for Krishna. In other words, when activities are enacted on the platform of personal sense gratification, they are called material activities. But when they are enacted for the satisfaction of Krishna, then they are spiritual activities. On any platform of activities, the principle of sense gratification is there. But on the spiritual platform, sense gratification is for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, whereas on the material platform, it is for the performer. For example, on the material platform, when a servant serves a master, he is trying to satisfy not the senses of his master, but rather his own senses. The servant would not serve the master if the payment stopped. That means that the servant engages himself in the service of the master just to satisfy his own senses. On the spiritual platform, however, the servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead serves Krishna without payment, and he continues his service in all conditions. That is the difference between Krishna consciousness and material consciousness.
So wonderful explanations here by Srila Prabhupada on the difference between Mahamaya and Yogamaya again, yeah? So a significant point here is who's actually the enjoyer of the Ras dance. Yeah, who's the enjoyer of the Ras dance from what we've read so far?
Krishna.
Krishna.
Krishna is the enjoyer of the Ras dance, yeah. Even though he's Bhagavan, even though he's self-satisfied, he's completely fulfilled, he likes to have relations with his devotees, yeah, in all forms. In fact, if something doesn't exist in the spiritual world, then it doesn't exist in the material world. Yeah, everything in the spiritual world is just reflected in the material world, so it's not a true form. And what is that reflection? That reflection is lust. Everything in the spiritual world is enacted in love. Everything in the material world is enacted in lust. So Prabhupada gives a very nice example of what we mean by lust, what he means by lust. So what is the example that Srila Prabhupada gives of service in the material world?
It's about the servant serving a master. So the servant serving a master because he's getting paid, but once the payment stops, the wages stops, he's not going to be able to serve. He won't have the inclination to serve. Whereas when you're serving
Mm.
Krishna out of your heart, you're not expecting anything. So if you're doing any service for Krishna, that is like a spiritual bonding. So you're doing it for Krishna. You're not doing because you're going to get any benefits out of it. So that is the difference. The material, being a material servant and being a spiritual servant for Krishna.
Yeah, that's right. So this is the like the benchmark we can measure ourselves against. Not just when we perform seva to Krishna, when we perform service to Krishna, but in any aspect of life, we can Krishnaize our activities. Yeah. So nice example by Prabhupada that we wouldn't go to work if we didn't get paid, right? Who would go to work if they didn't get paid? I don't know, some devotees might. Yeah. Some people might. People wouldn't go to work, right? Would you go to work? No way.
No.
If that payment was coming in and you didn't have to go to work, would you go to work? No way. Yeah. And if you stop getting paid, would you still be going to work? No way. Yeah. So our service or our duty, if we use that word, duty, is based on some remuneration, something we get back. We're performing duties just because we're getting something for it. Or if you take that level deeper, then we're only performing duties for the sake of looking after this physical and mental body. We're not even performing them for our soul. The soul gets no benefit. So many duties in the material world we perform, isn't it? Yeah. But we're just performing them for our body and our mind. So that our body and mind is satisfied, but actually it doesn't satisfy the soul. But duties can be performed to satisfy Krishna. How? How could we perform our activities to satisfy Krishna?
So when we for like if you're doing a house chores, an example. So if we cook, if we're cooking, then we can think of we cooking for Krishna. Or I mean, if we have like a nice garden, so we can grow some nice plants with flowers, and we can offer that to Krishna.
Yeah.
So like that, I guess we can.
Yeah. So we can perform our duties on a spiritual level if we're doing them to please Krishna, and if we're identifying that Krishna is going to be the enjoyer of our activities, if we're going to give the results of what we're doing to Krishna. Yeah. So we can look after our house. The result of looking after your house is having a clean and tidy house, well-maintained house, because Krishna lives there. It's his house. Having a nice garden, as Mataji mentioned, growing flowers, fruits, vegetables, because they're going to be offered to Krishna. He's going to enjoy them first. Yeah. So everything in our life can become prasadam, even our job, if we have that type of consciousness. So that's the difference between love and lust. So these gopis, they've been attracted to the sound of Krishna's flute. Yeah. But they're approaching Krishna out of love and not lust. So then how can we explain that to someone based on what we've said about duties? So they're doing everything for Krishna. Yeah. That means it's love. So when Krishna calls them with the flute, are they going because of lust? Are they going for their own senses?
No.
They're going to please Krishna. Yeah. So it's actually very natural. Right? You're serving Krishna, and then Krishna calls you. So what do? You go, isn't it? So this is the fortunate position of Krishna, the gopis, actually. This is how great the gopis are, actually. You know, they're in their homes, they're serving Krishna, thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day. And then one day Krishna calls them with his flute. So they go. Yeah. Not out of lust, but out of love.
I got a question.
I hope I have an answer.
Now, my question is, if you do everything for Krishna, does that mean love exists in the material world? Because as far
Yes,
as I know, love only exists in our spiritual world, and lust exists in material world.
yeah, it's a good question, Prabhuji. How would you answer it? So if love only exists in the spiritual world, and the spiritual world is eternal, yeah,
I'll
or
hear you.
Sat, the spiritual world is based on Sat, eternality. Yeah, we know that the spiritual world is actually the real world, yeah, the eternal world. So love is based on truth, it's based on eternality, and lust is based on just a shadow, yeah, just a reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can experience love in this world by serving Krishna, by serving the jivas, because the jivas are also eternal. Yeah. If we think this person is a spirit soul, if we don't think of the person as a body, and you know, just relate with their body and mind for us, for our enjoyment, for our gratification, if we deal with people as a soul, as a servant of Krishna, then yes, we can experience love in this world. Of course, but then we're not living in this world if we have that spiritual vision.
But my understanding, loving Krishna in this material world is only practicing. And we actually love Krishna when we go back to Godhead.
Yeah, so there are different levels of loving Krishna. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that we can't have pure love in this world. Yeah.
So that means love does exist in material world. Yeah.
Yeah, because if we're on the principle, if we're serving Krishna for his pleasure, then that's pure devotional service. Even if someone isn't pure themselves, even if someone is practicing, they can still practice pure devotional service. As Rupa Goswami explains. So sadhana bhakti, or practicing devotional service, is still accepted by Krishna. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no chance of becoming advanced. So it has to be accepted by Krishna. So then that means that is reaching Krishna by mercy of Guru. By mercy of Guru, our service is pure. Because Guru is accepting, so therefore Krishna is accepting.
Yeah, just
even if it may have some imperfections, that's the generosity of Guru.
But then again, it's a different level, isn't it? Yeah. But still exists, yeah.
Yeah. So therefore we say this is prema bhakti. This is complete devotion to Krishna, what the gopis have. Yeah. And what we have is more like sadhana bhakti, practicing. Yeah. So we cannot pretend to have prema bhakti if we don't have it. We can't even pretend to have bhav. We can't even pretend to have emotions for loving Krishna if we don't have. But by practicing, we will get. So, so by practicing, we'll also be able to experience. We do have experiences in spiritual life. Otherwise, we wouldn't be trying to practice spiritual life. Sometimes we feel like Krishna is reciprocating with us. The devotees are reciprocating with us. So then we know Krishna is accepting our selfless service. So, but the point here is Prabhupada makes this distinction. He says, the servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead serves Krishna without payment. So we've discussed that. And he continues his service in all conditions. So this is the difference between sadhana and siddha. That in sadhana, we start and stop. Yeah. When it's time to chant, we chant. When it's time to serve, we serve. But when we're not doing that, we're doing all other kind of things. But the pure devotee, they actually never stop forgetting Krishna. They always remember Krishna. They never forget Krishna in any activity. So that's when it becomes pure. Because to serve is one thing, but to serve in all conditions, that's where the practice comes in. How can I serve Krishna in this position, in this position, this condition, this situation? When things are favorable, when things are unfavorable. Yeah. I hope that's okay, Prabhu. Maybe you
Yeah,
can
I had a realization. I was thinking, because there are so many, you can make a definition about bhakti. And I thought, if I have realization, and if I make just one sentence which covers bhakti for Krishna anyway. So I came to conclusion, unalloyed, transcendental, loving service to Krishna in any situation. And this covers like everything.
Yeah, so this is the same definition which Rupa Goswami gives, our Acharya. He says in the Sanskrit, he quotes from Padma Puran. He gives a definition of pure devotional service. Yeah, so it's very important. He says, Anya bilasita shunyam jnana karma anarvritam anukulena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uchyate. What that means is that one is performing devotional service, pure devotional service, without any desire for karma or gyan or any yogic siddhi. Yeah. So these are all blocks on our devotional service. If we're doing something because we want a material result, that's called karma. If we want to get, liberation, that's called jnana. If we want yoga siddhi, if we want some kind of material perfection from what we're doing, like if I want to do kirtan, I could be doing it just because I want to become good at doing kirtan, yeah, just because I want to become good at music, or I could be doing it just because I don't like this material world. I just want to be liberated, yeah. Or I'm just doing it because, I'm a musician anyway, so I'll do some music and I'll do some kirtan, and music and kirtan is music, both is music. So these are all like material desires. But if we're performing kirtan just to please Krishna, then what does that look like? Then the second part of the verse explains that it has to be anukulyena Krishna anushilanam. So these three words, anukulyena means it has to be following what the acharyas have told us. We have to do devotional service the way that we're instructed to do. We can't make up what is devotional service. Krishna likes things in a certain way. We have to do those things which the acharyas tell us, this is devotional service, this is not devotional service. That's anukulyena. Then Krishna anushilanam, and that means it has to be what is favorable to Krishna. And as it says here, without any condition. So we shouldn't put any condition like Krishna, I'll serve you if, I'll serve you but, I'll serve you when. Yeah.
If.
Yeah. There shouldn't be any conditions. I don't know if that answered the question, probably. Sorry, I lost track of what we were discussing.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking when I said unalloyed, that covers so many things,
Yeah.
No diversion, straight.
It's unconditional, unmotivational, and continuous.
Exactly, three things, yeah. Unconditional, unmotivated, so there's no other desires, and the third one was
continuous, yeah. And continuous, according to Krishna's desires, or as Krishna desires.
Yeah, continuous as well. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue from here. If Jigna would mind reading.
As mentioned above, it appears that Krishna enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis when he was 8 years old. At that time, many of the gopis were married because in India, especially in those days, girls were married at a very early age. There are even many instances of a girl giving birth to a child at the age of 12. Under the circumstances, all the gopis who wanted to have Krishna as their husband were already married. At the same time, they continued to hope that Krishna would be their husband. Their attitude toward Krishna was that of parama love. Therefore, the loving affairs of Krishna with the gopis are called parikya rasa. The attitude of a married man who desires another wife or a wife who desires another husband is called parakya rasa.
Right. Okay, we'll speak about some of this and then we'll move on to the next paragraph because it continues discussing what parakya rasa is. So one key point here is that this ras dance happened when Krishna was 8 years old. So of course we know by normal biology that there's no that Krishna hasn't gone through adolescent age. Yeah. So Krishna hasn't he hasn't had those the desires that teenagers would have, adolescent desires to enjoy girls and boys, yeah, the way girls and boys enjoy in those teenage years. So Prabhupada mentioned this above as well, that this is not like an ordinary dance of girls and boys based on lusty desire. So even from a biological or material perspective, they're only 8 years old. Yeah. So even then, Krishna performs his pastime in such a way that it's just pure innocence. Yeah. So people can never say that Krishna is acting in a lusty way, because it's, first of all, it's not possible, because Krishna is Bhagavan. He doesn't have any material desires. He doesn't have any hankering for anything. And second of all, he's only 8. So even if someone doesn't accept Krishna as Bhagavan, they cannot say he's immoral, because even a child of 8 years old doesn't have such desires. Yeah. So this is a significant point. Then Prabhupada goes on to explain what paramour love is, because the gopis are already married. Now, so to explain this, Jiva Goswami, he explains that the gopis were married early in life because all the fathers of the girls, they were in fear of King Kamsa. He explains that because of King Kamsa, and the gopis were extraordinarily beautiful, they had spiritual beauty. So they actually, all the fathers, they wanted their daughters to be married to Krishna. Yeah. But if the way the pastime happens is that because Krishna hasn't done his what's called Upanayana ceremony, yeah, because he hasn't done any of his rites, he only got his naming ceremony done. He hadn't done his Upanayana, so he couldn't get married. So this is all the arrangement of Yoga Maya in Vrindavan, or Paurnamasi. We'll hear more about after. So because King Kamsa was there, and then he would want to arrange all the weddings of the girls. The girls had been married from early, yeah. And secondly, they couldn't marry Krishna because Krishna hadn't done that Upanayana. Although it was the desire of all the fathers that their daughters get married to Krishna, and also of the girls themselves who performed the Katyayani Vrata to get married to Krishna. So Krishna is actually fulfilling the desire not just of the girls, but of their fathers as well. Yeah. So this is called Parakya Ras, when the relationship is outside of the marriage. Yeah, Prabhupada has explained that. But we know that because this is a spiritual relationship, the marriage is only It's only an external feature of the relationship. And Prabhupada will explain more about that in the next paragraph properly. And then we can stop for more discussion on that. So, Jigna Mataji, if you want to continue.
Sorry, yes. Actually, Krishna is the husband of everyone because he is the supreme enjoyer. The gopis wanted Krishna to be their husband, but factually there was no possibility of his marrying all the gopis. But because they had their natural tendency to accept Krishna as their supreme husband, the relationship between the gopis and Krishna is called Parakya Rasa. This Parakya Rasa is ever existent in Golika Vrindavan, in the spiritual sky, where there is no possibility of the inebriety which characterizes Parakya Rasa in the material world. In the material world, Parakya Rasa is abominable, whereas in the spiritual world, it is present in the super excellent relationship of Krishna and the gopis. There are many relationships with Krishna: master and servant, friend and friend, parent and son, and lover and beloved. Out of all of these rasas, the Parakya Rasa is considered to be the topmost.
Right, so Prabhupada is now elaborating on what Parakya Rasa actually means in the spiritual sense and in the material sense. Yeah. So in the material sense, Parakya Rasa is abominable. It's when a lady has a relation with a man outside of marriage. Yeah. But this doesn't apply in the spiritual sense because everyone has an eternal relationship with Krishna. Everyone has an eternal relationship with Krishna. And if this point is missed, then the Ras dance is completely misunderstood. So the gopis, they have a relationship with Krishna. Yeah. And it's just that their relationship with Krishna is in the Parakya Ras. Yeah. So the first point, everyone has a relationship with Krishna. It can be a friendship. It can be as Krishna as a husband. It can be Krishna as a parent or as a child. Yeah. So we can understand those relationships fairly easily. But Krishna can also have relationships in the Parakya above. So he can also have a relationship outside of the marriage. And so they have an eternal relationship with Krishna in that way. Yeah.
Haribol.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna Prabhu.
Parakya Rasa in a spiritual world means, as I understand, there is no lusty desire involved. It's
Yes,
without
Prabhu.
yeah.
I think we discussed that in more detail previously, just previous paragraphs before you joined. So yeah, that's a very important point, that there's no lusty desire, there's no desire, which is that the gopis will enjoy for themselves. Yeah. Actually, they're just acting in a relationship, in an eternal relationship they already have with Krishna.
Yeah.
It just so happens that relationship is the Parakya Rasa, so it's a relationship outside of marriage. Yeah. And actually, so people are interested in that type of relationship in the material world, you know, because of it's very adventurous or daring, you know. Of course, it's completely abominable. But people go for that type of relationship to spice up their life, you can say. Yeah. But that's why Prabhupada says there's no inebriety if that type of relationship is with Krishna. Inebriety means it's not degraded. Yeah.
I just had one, Hare Krishna. I
Hare
just
Krishna.
listened to one class quite a while ago, and was saying that, you know, all these marriages of the gopis were arranged during the Brahma Vilochan Leela. So when Krishna had expanded himself as the Gopas, So that's when the marriage of all these gopis happened. So they were actually married to Krishna, because Krishna had expanded himself when Brahma took all the gopas and the calves away and hid them, and he had expanded himself into every single gopa. So that's when a lot of marriages had happened in Vrindavan. In other words, Krishna was married to all these gopis.
Yeah, that's an amazing point, actually. Yeah, I've not heard that before.
Yeah, it's
So yeah, we know that Krishna was played the role of the gopas for 1 year, isn't it? In the Brahma Vivaha Leela. Yeah.
I think it's
That
in
was
one
the
of
other marriage happened.
I heard, yeah.
Okay, that sounds acceptable. Yeah.
Abhijit, I've got a question. So I've heard of the devotee Mirabai. Why isn't she celebrated much as a devotee, but only celebrated in fiction, whereas she was a real life figure? And was hers, because she was married, so was hers a parakya love for Krishna?
First of all, I'd say it's maybe a generalization to say that she's not respected, or she's not considered a devotee. Definitely, she's a pure devotee. Yeah. Just because we don't speak about her regularly and often doesn't necessarily make that so. I mean, if you go to Vrindavan, there's a beautiful temple that she has nearby, and she's written so much poetry about Krishna. Yeah? And then to your second point, so she has this mood of actually Krishna's her husband. Yeah, that's her relationship with Krishna. She sees Krishna as her pati, her husband.
So it wasn't parakya love, it was like Rukmini had for Krishna.
Yeah, but it's as the mood of Krishna being a husband, but she's in separation with her husband. I don't know if anyone can correct me if that's what I understood.
I think basically when she was a child, Mirabai, she was given Krishna's murti by her mom. And like, I think probably her mom said that, this is your husband. So ever since she was a child, she had this Krishna's murti, and she always, thought about Krishna as her husband. So when she was at a marriageable age and they got her married to one of the kings, she took the murti with her to her husband's house, and she did tell her husband that this is my actual husband, Krishna. So she was in that sort of relation with Krishna since she was a child. So I mean, she had a lot of what you call a lot of not austerities, but she was tested in so many ways by the family, and she was preaching as well. Like, she used to preach people to be like, become vegetarian and everything. Because she was married into like a Rajput thing, and they used to like sometimes eat meat and everything. So she was actually tested quite a few times. She at one time she had to even leave her palace. She was willing to leave her palace for Krishna, and yeah, so that's she had that sort of relation with Krishna since childhood, as Krishna being her husband.
Yeah, regarding this Chapaklata, I say, yeah, when she was young, very young, and she saw a wedding, and they went to the wedding and the girl getting married, and then she came home and she told her mom, I want to get married. I want a husband. Why I can't marry? And she kept on that she wanted. So mother was just didn't know what to do. So Krishna deity, so said, look, this is your husband. Just worship him. And that's so from that day she just took it that she's married and that's her husband. So when the wedding was arranged, she said, I'm already married, but I said, still you have to marry because of that. So she took told her husband and took the deities, and she was made after that. She said, I'll do my duties, but Krishna is my husband, so I won't have any relationship of a husband with you. But her husband accepted, but his family wasn't accepting. Especially his younger brother, who had, because she was so beautiful, he had always eye on her. And when her husband,
brother-in-law.
no brother, yeah, brother-in-law, his brother,
Yeah, his
younger
brother.
brother. So after his husband passed away, for some reason I don't know exactly what happened. He wanted her to marry her, and she refused it. That I've already married. Krishna is, and at one point, yeah, her husband as well agreed to her. I will make the temple for you, and he did make a special temple to keep his her deity and
For worship.
worshiping.
Mhm.
So that's like lusty desire of her brother-in-law made all the mess in her life. But she, as he said, in any circumstances, you should be connected Krishna and devotion. So it didn't matter to him. She just said Krishna. And she took all the austerities and everything came in her way.
Thank you, Mataji and Prabhu. Thank you. Such
Oh, yeah.
lovely pastime.
So she had that relationship with Krishna in the what's called Svarakiya ras. Svarakiya means married relation. Yeah? Svarakiya. Parakiya means unmarried, outside of marriage.
Thank you.
So this also connects to what Prabhuji was asking earlier. Satyanarayan Prabhu was asking if there can be pure love in the material world. So Mirabai is a perfect example of that. Now, okay, let's continue reading. Do we have our next reader now, Shamrani Mataji?
Yes, Hare Krishna. This material world is the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. It is just like the reflection of a tree on the bank of a reservoir of water. The topmost part of the tree is seen as the lowest part. Similarly, Parakya Ras, when pervertedly reflected in this material world, is abominable. When people, therefore, imitate the rasa dance of Krishna with the gopis, they simply enjoy the perverted, abominable reflection of the transcendental Parakya Ras. There is no possibility of enjoying this transcendental Parakya Ras within the material world. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that one should not imitate this Parakya Ras even in a dream or imagination. Those who do so drink the most deadly poison.
So some strong words there by Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
About the, you cannot imitate something which is so great. Yeah. Because if you do, that's very detrimental. Prabhupada gives this example in other places also. Just that, like Lord Shiva, he is Vaishnava Yatha Shambhu, Vaishnava Nam Yatha Shambhu. He's the greatest Vaishnava. He was given this title because he was most compassionate upon the whole universe by drinking the poison, yeah, the halal which came from the churning of the milk ocean. So because he drank this poison and he held it in his throat, yeah, he became bluish in color, yeah, or his throat became bluish, you can say. Then nobody can imitate the greatness of Lord Shiva, yeah. Still they try, Prabhupada says that still people, they try and take different intoxications to try and become endeared to Lord Shiva, yeah. They have bhang or they have whatever is, different things. But then, they claim to be devotee of Lord Shiva. So this is known as upper sampradaya, or this is not the right way to follow Lord Shiva. And in the same way, here people claim to be devotees of Krishna by performing Ras Garba, or Ras Dandiya, or that kind of type of enjoyment, material enjoyment. Yeah, and that's completely abominable, Srila Prabhupada says. Yeah, so that's that type of I can't even say service, but that type of enjoyment is not pleasing to Krishna, because Krishna's not served in that way. Krishna's not enjoyed in that way. Krishna's not enjoying in that way. It's the person who's performing the activities that wants to gratify their own senses, wants to be enjoyed. So this is something we should not even do in dreams or imagination. Prabhupada made such a strong point. Yeah?
That's just remind me of the Nidhivan, isn't it? That's the story about the Nidhivan. So when and they say that it's still in now days too, in that Radha and Krishna come and do their ras at night time, or Krishna does with the gopis, and no one can actually see because it's so transcendental. But they said that even the people like previously tried and hide behind the trees, and their mind just go mad and they can't. So yeah, it's
Yeah. So even in Vrindavan, they have these kind of myths or folklore, but there may not be any scriptural basis to to back up those type of statements. But still, the point is true. The intention is good. That you cannot try and sneak your way into Krishna's pastimes.
Haribol, even monkeys leave that place at night.
Yeah.
Just for night, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I've not heard anything that's an authorized statement. Of course, we wouldn't go against it, but at the same time, who's to know if there's monkeys in Nidhivan or not? If you're not supposed to go in and check, there may be, there may not be. I don't know, but we have to be a little careful and things like that. So yeah, it said that Krishna performs his pastimes, his ras dance in the Nidhivan in Vrindavan today. So, but actually Krishna performs in pastimes his ras dance in so many places, even in Govardhan, so many of them. So we don't say that we don't go to Govardhan. Well, so we can see it like that. Yeah. Okay. So yes, we should not imitate is one thing, and we should recognize how different this parakya ras in the material world and spiritual are, in that they're as different as a reflection in a tree, a real tree, and a reflection in the water. Yeah. So the top of the tree, or the top fruit of the tree, is the furthest away in the reflection. Yeah. So the bank may be there, and then you have the what do you call it, the base of the tree. Yeah. And then you have the branches of the tree, and then you have the leaves and the fruits, flowers. Yeah. So the purpose of the tree is actually the fruit, isn't it? The benefit the tree gives is the fruit, which is at the top, and that's actually furthest away in the reflection. Yeah. I'm just trying to make it like so you can picture it. Yeah. So in the same way, everyone is looking for ras. Everyone is looking for ras in the material. Everyone is looking for a taste in this material world, but you can't get that taste because it's a reflection. So people go after taste for so many things in this world. Yeah. Fame, wealth, strength, yeah, beauty, knowledge, even renunciation. Yeah. All these opulences people go after, but nobody can have them in full except for Krishna, because he's Bhagavan. He's the owner of all opulences. There's a reservoir of all pleasure. But we can experience ras by serving Krishna, by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We can experience ras. We can experience real taste. So we can't experience the taste of the fruit in the reflection of the water. But that fruit exists, the taste exists in the spiritual world. We can access that by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's given us this Hare Krishna mantra. Yeah. So what does chanting do? Chanting changes our consciousness. It changes our consciousness in such a way that we can connect everything in this world to Krishna. And so that we can serve Krishna with everything in this world. And we get ras from everything we do. We get spiritual taste because our consciousness is changed by the Maha Mantra. Any thoughts or questions on this? Okay, we can maybe read one more paragraph there. Shamrani Mataji.
Yeah. When Krishna, the supreme enjoyer, desired to enjoy the company of the gopis on that full moon night of the Sarat season, exactly at the very moment the moon, the lord of the stars, appeared in the sky, displaying its most beautiful features. The full moon night of the Sarat season is the most beautiful night in the year. In India, there is a great monument called Taj Mahal in Agra, city in the Uttar Pradesh province, and the tomb is made of first-class marble stone. During the night of the full moon of the Sarat season, many foreigners go to see the beautiful reflection of the moon on the tomb. Thus, this full moon night is celebrated even today for its beauty.
This is a really, really powerful example Prabhupada gives, yeah, of a reflection of material and spiritual, actually, right? So when this full moon night, Sharad Punim, with someone who's got a material consciousness, where would they go? Where would they go? So I didn't hear.
They go to Taj Mahal to see the...
Yeah, they go sightseeing, tourist monuments, Taj Mahal, and so many other places like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And they see the moon and see how beautiful it is, see the reflection of the monuments in the water, and so on, yeah? And so many places like that in the world, isn't it? So many wonders of the world, right? This is interesting because Taj Mahal is not very far from Vrindavan, yeah? So people from all over the world, they go to this state of what is this? What is the name of that state? Uttar Pradesh.
Uttar Pradesh.
Yeah? Uttar Pradesh. People from all over the world, they go to Uttar Pradesh, yeah? And Vrindavan is also in Uttar Pradesh. But many people don't get to experience Vrindavan, the beauty of Vrindavan in the Sharat season. Yeah. They go to Agra, which is not far. In fact, it's so famous, they have this golden triangle tours, isn't it? You go to Delhi, then you go and see, you go and see Delhi and the tourist attractions there. You go to, what's the other places I'm not so familiar.
Jaipur.
Then they go to Jaipur, the Pink City. Yeah. And then they go to Agra.
Even people go to Mathura, but not Vrindavan.
Yeah.
I heard.
They go on the Mathura highway even to go to these. Well, at the center of that triangle is Vrindavan. Yeah.
That's true, actually. A lot of people don't know like how spiritual and busy Vrindavan is compared to Mathura. Like those who don't hear about Krishna Lila enough will see Mathura as quite the holy place. I've experienced it within like close family. So yeah, when they came to visit, there was a time when I was at Vrindavan and they came to visit me there, and they were like, "Oh wow, we should have stayed over in Vrindavan, not Mathura." And I said, "Okay, next time." So yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, Krishna is more famous, let's say, famously known in Mathura. When you say Krishna devotee, oh, you've been to Mathura? No. Yes, but I've also been to Vrindavan. But Vrindavan isn't so well known.
Because some people think Mathura is Lord Krishna's birthplace, so that's the highest.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the thing. So on this Sharad Purnim, there's 2 reasons. So not only is it actually physically or has actually physical beauty, the moon and the sky and that night and the stars, is actually very physically beautiful, but also spiritual significance is there as well. Yeah? That Krishna is enjoying on this night. There's a spiritual significance that Krishna, the supreme enjoyer, has his enjoyment on this night. So therefore, naturally, it's going to be the most beautiful night. Krishna always selects the best of everything. Yeah. Okay. We've got time to read maybe one more.
Yeah. When the full moon rose in the east, it tinged everything within a reddish color. With the rising of the moon, the whole sky appeared smeared by red kumkum. When a husband long separated from his wife returns home, he decorated the face of his wife with red kumkum. This long expected moonrise of the Sarat season was thus smearing the eastern sky.
So very poetic
Yeah.
explanation given here. Yeah, very beautiful. This makes sense in the context of the moon and the stars, because in astrology, the moon, yeah, or Chandra Dev, he has 27 wives, the 27 constellation stars. Yeah, so these are actually his wives, all the stars, and the stars, they all move around the moon. Yeah, so actually, rather, sorry, the moon, he moves around all of the stars. Sorry. So it's understood that the moon, he visits each different palace of his different wives. So he has 27 wives. So there's 27 constellations. So from astrological point of view, that's how it's looked at. Now again, from the spiritual point of view, these are personalities, yeah, and therefore then the husband, as Prabhupada is giving in the Bhagavatam, the husband, he's going to his various wives, and actually the sky is colored in red because he's putting kumkum on the forehead of the wife. Because when the husband meets the wife, he can apply the kumkum, like at the wedding day. Yeah, this is one of the ceremonies of the wedding day. Oftentimes, it only stays on that wedding day, and is not followed every day. But that's another thing. So the color, the sky has a reddish hue, beautiful reddish hue.
Prabhuji, I've got another question.
Okay.
So this is happening in Vrindavan, in say Dwapar Yuga, but what happens in Golok Vrindavan? So in Golok Vrindavan, Krishna is not always 8 years old. So in Golok Vrindavan, when does Ras Leela happen, or when does Sharad Purnim happen?
You'll have to find out when you get there. Right? Krishna is performing the pastimes in the material world for people in the material world, and he's performing pastimes in the spiritual world for the people of the spiritual world.
But doesn't whatever happens in Vrindavan, isn't that also a reflection of what happens in Golok Vrindavan?
Yeah,
Or,
that's right.
so then we don't hear about Krishna being 8 years old in Golok Vrindavan, or I could be completely wrong. Sorry, I'm just asking a question. It's just kind of
Yeah, all of Krishna, his pastimes are eternal. So his childhood pastimes are eternal. His boyhood pastimes are eternal. His youth pastimes are eternal. His adult pastimes, all of them are happening in the spiritual world simultaneously. It's inconceivable. That's why Krishna is the absolute truth.
So they're all happening simultaneously.
Right.
Okay, understand.
So everything Krishna does is factual. It doesn't have a beginning, middle, and end. If something ends, then it's temporary. Yeah? The truth is factual. So Krishna is the absolute truth, and his pastimes are eternal, all of them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, inconceivable, as you rightly said.
It's inconceivable.
But yeah,
It's actually inconceivable.
kind of
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Preeti wanted to ask or comment?
Yeah, yes, Harbol. I wanted to say, like, regarding what Panchali was saying there, because yeah, you do hear that Krishna's all of different ages, but then that's something to do with the different rasas as well. Like the most deepest rasa is like the rasa he has with the gopis and stuff, and so and in that age, what, he's around 16 or something, 15 or 16, I don't know, something like that. So when they say that's like the highest or like the deepest kind of relationship you can have with him, and that's why maybe sometimes that area is seen as that's how he's like in Golok Vrindavan, but he is all his other ages as well, like how you say all his leelas are happening eternally, because everyone can have a different kind of relationship with him. Then his reciprocation is like, well, if you see him as your child, then he's going to be of a young age. You know, if you see him as a young friend, then as a young friend, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So based on your relationship with Krishna, you will experience him in that way. So Krishna, he can reciprocate with everyone perfectly. This is the underlying point. That if you have a relationship with Krishna in one rasa, then he will reciprocate with you in that rasa. And if you have another rasa, then he will reciprocate with you. And that's everything for the person who has the relationship with Krishna and his devotees in that rasa. Yeah. So there's no limit to Krishna's pastimes. And actually, this pastime happens, this ras dance, even in the material world, when Krishna has his pastimes in the material world, then this night it lasts. I think Prabhupada will mention later on, but this night it lasts the night of Brahma, or it lasts the length of a Brahma's night. Yeah. So their experience, the gopis, is not like they just had one dance with Krishna, in their whole life. But during that dance, it was going on and on and on like eternity. Yeah. Okay. So these are some of the more esoteric aspects of the pastime, which we could say a lot about, but what's more important is like what it means for us. How we can apply it in our lives, isn't it? Because it's easy to just discuss many rasic things, but really we could go away being very confused. But to take inspiration from these points, would you like to share anything which was valuable to you? I'm just opening up now to everyone. Any final thoughts and reflections?
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Even I heard Ras dance, it wasn't just for one night, it was for many nights.
Yes, it happened many different times. Yeah.
I learned something new. I'd heard about the Leela where it was when Krishna became all the young gopas and the young calves, and at that point he got married to Radharani. So like when he was pretending to be is it Abhimanyu who Radha gets married to? I can't remember his name.
Right.
Yeah, and then like just right now I just learned well, he gets married. All the gopis, young gopis, get married at that year. So in a way, they're all Krishna's their husband. So that was like, oh yeah, that hit me this evening. So I was like, I was thankful for that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Okay, anyone else would like to share something which they learned today, which they're inspired by in the spiritual practice?
I think for me, it was very interesting to understand or try to understand what parakya love is and how, and it kind of makes the whole picture of that inverted tree more visual because, you know, as you rightly said, parakya love in the material world is really an abominable act. Whereas transferred to the spiritual world, and you understand that everyone already has a relationship, irrespective of who or where they are, or whoever they are. They already have a relationship with Krishna. So whoever they get married to, they'll, as soon as they think of Krishna, automatically they'll have that parakya love, because they're because of their eternal relationship with Krishna. So that was very interesting for me to understand. Yeah, and now I understand why the gopis' love is so is the highest, and of the gopis, you know, why Radharani's love is the highest of the highest. Kind of makes sense now.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Highest and also most confidential as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Although
people misunderstand it, therefore it's confidential.
Yeah, yeah. Because it kind of, if you get married, it becomes a bit of a finite. There's a finite thing to it, isn't it? But whereas the love between Krishna and Radha, that can't be defined within in numbers or quantity, or it can't be quantified.
Right. Okay, thank you everyone then for another evening of Krishna book. I hope this inspires you in your spiritual practices, and we'll continue reading this chapter in the coming weeks. So we'll end here, and then we'll have a japa round together. So let's finish off now with Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
See you next week.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. See you next week. It's nice to discuss with you about this this reflection of Ras. Actually, real Ras comes from the spiritual platform, and japa is the way to enter into that Ras. So it's we can actually pray that we want to please Krishna, and that's actually how the soul is. How the soul feels completely nourished. You can feel completely nourished in spiritual practice by chanting. If we have the understanding that this chanting is pleasing to Krishna. If we, just by chanting 3 words, Hare Krishna and Rama, there's no like material enjoyment you can really get from it, isn't it? That's why people find chanting very dry sometimes. But if we turn our understanding around that actually this chanting is not for my enjoyment, it's not because I want to try and enjoy the chanting, it's because Krishna is enjoying it, we're calling him, we're having an eternal relationship with Krishna, we're reconnecting with him. And Krishna enjoys that very much. And if we have that perspective, then our chanting will have so much more rasa, a relation with Krishna. Okay, so let's begin chanting together, as we always do, with the sound. And then you just finish in your own time and put the finger up. Okay. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram